You beat the IRS, basically. I mean, they found that you did not do any of the one things. You didn't file any illegal tax returns. You didn't lie on them. And you did not attempt to defraud the United States of America, correct?
Right. Yet being prosecuted for doing so. You'd think they'd have a little bit of evidence to bring to trial, to a federal trial.
And they had to bring your former colleagues and superiors on the stand, and they actually gave glowing reviews of you, correct?
Yes. Well, our defense, we brought that, my former superior there at the IRS, who was the person I presented my report to with the highlights of my research.
Well, at least he had that much self-respect, for himself and respect for you, that he wasn't just going to tell the truth about what kind of a person you were, and not just let you rot in some cell for years for something you didn't do. You didn't break the law. Other side, we're going to take calls, but I want to get into this Wesley Snipes shenanigans and much, much more. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas. 5 nights a week, folks. Monday through Friday, 9 to midnight Central Time. We'll be back after this. PrisonPlanet.tv, Infowars.com.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas. Joined by Joe Banister, freedomabovefortune.com. Call in, ask him whatever you'd like, 866-582-9933. Now, you go to court, and you're found not guilty on all charges. I mean, that's got to feel good, right?
It felt really good. And, of course, I didn't expect anything different. But, a federal court is it's not the kind of arena where you want to, challenge anything, because it's very controlled. And, you really don't know for sure, as innocent as you might be. And there are other innocent people who have been convicted. But I fortunately had a jury of people who were listening. They were intent on what was going on. And they could obviously see that there was, the government couldn't provide any evidence of any wrongdoing. And on cross-examination by my defense attorneys, they actually admitted that what I had submitted with these returns, these tax returns, was truthful. And just what the IRS would expect to receive. So, the jury, even after the trial, I talked to them and some of the members, and they said, well, we couldn't understand why all the evidence that the government kept bringing up made you look so good. And I said, well, that's all they had, was that kind of evidence.
I mean, you are the Rocky of the tax resistance movement. I mean, you really are.
Well, and as I did say to Alex earlier today, you probably heard it, that, being attacked is not fun. I don't like it. I don't want to be attacked. But sometimes what happens, the ramifications of being attacked, prevents or presents tremendous benefits for all of us. Because then these deceitful, tyrannical government agents have to actually step out into the light of day of a courtroom, where actual evidence has to be presented. And, that can be a good thing for those of us that are on the side of the truth.
Absolutely. Now, I want to fast forward. Now, you're in Aaron Russo's America, Freedom to Fascism, and I want to remind people we actually have reflections and warnings right now at Infowars.com. Aaron Russo's final interview. Check it out. Lots of extras there. But you're in the film. It's one of the bigger films out there for the Patriot movement. Attacked in the MIAC report as subversive material. Apparently extremists hand out America, Freedom to Fascism. And in that movie, you get called into the mainstream media, and you do this interview. And in the interview, the woman says, how do you feel about, getting over on the IRS, getting away with not paying your taxes? And you have, just a staunch response. I love it. I tell people about it all the time. Why don't you tell people about that?
Well, kind of a last minute, and I mean, maybe people are seeing it as they see me here today. I'm not a media person. I just questioned the IRS and turned into, I guess, the only one that decided to do so. But I was asked to be on this MSNBC show hosted by Maria Bartiromo, and she was kind of, what I would call your typical mainstream media hostess, where she seems to have an agenda that has nothing to do with the truth. And she seemed to be implying that I was hiding and getting away with something. And she point blank asked me, how have you gotten away with not paying your taxes all these years? And, I was incensed by that question, and I tried to, remain composed. But I said, I've not gotten away with anything. I'm not hiding from anyone. I'm simply trying to ask questions from the agency about what my responsibilities are and what the responsibilities are for the rest of America. And they seem extremely hesitant to respond, to actually sit down with the American people and discuss it. And I remember saying that, instead of pulling up a chair to sit down with you, they pull out a club to beat you with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how they do it. It's like they're the enforcement arm of the mafia. They're the guys that come to break your kneecaps if you don't want to pay. And that's insane to me on another level, but it continues to this day. Now, you continue your fight. I mean, you go across. I mean, I've spoken at events with you. Well, what are you up to these days? I mean, you're obviously in Texas right now.
Yeah, I mean, I most of my work is just accounting work, back to the boring accounting work. Mm-hmm. I go to speak when I'm invited. I rarely ever get paid to speak, mm-hmm. so it's more just a volunteer effort.
And I want you to talk about that, because everybody thinks that we're making, money hand over fist in this patriot movement. No, it's something that drives us, that we would do if there wasn't a penny at stake. And that is most often the case. When I go speak with you, I don't get paid either. I go there to talk to people, to relay my message, to try to get that across and try to broaden the audience, because these questions do need to be addressed. And the government has only gotten more and more out of control. And I mean, that 16th Amendment issue, where it literally says it's a voluntary tax, is insanity to me. But you bring it up to the normal person. And in fact, I was talking to somebody today, and they're like, well, why is it, Joe Banister, beats the IRS in court. Why isn't every lawyer in the country pointing to the Banister versus the IRS case?
Well, the problem is that, we have no hand in how our legal system has come to be. But a trial, mm-hmm. at the trial level, is not something that has any precedent to it, other than it's a fact that I was acquitted after being charged with these heinous crimes. But you can't use my acquittal as a precedent in another case. If mine was an appellate case, if I had appealed up the chain of command in the courts, then that could have precedential value. But just being a criminal trial where I was acquitted...
So in other words, they would have had to convict you first. You would have had to fight the conviction, win an appellate court, before anybody can even use that as a precedent.
Right, but then the appeal issue might not have anything to do with the actual underlying. It might have been some technical problem that the judge, he made some mistake during the trial or something
mm-hmm.
like that.
What
So
snakes.
It's just the nature of our legal system, but it doesn't really have any precedential value other than just looking at the facts. The mm-hmm. fact that the government was so desperate that they would bring up a case that they had no evidence to prove. Just to discredit me, just to shut me up and put me away in a cage for 3 to 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. And, what they would do to try to make that happen. And of course, they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And like I say, that's where, getting attacked is not fun, but there can be some benefits down the road for everyone if you can somehow withstand it.
Mm-hmm. Now, we'll get into Snipes in a moment, but I want to take a call, and then I want to talk about what we do know. I mean, Snipes did beat a lot of this rap. I mean, he beat all the felony charges, which mm-hmm. is incredible, and that's something that the government really doesn't even want to talk about. They were kind of able to get him backdoor with these misdemeanors, and I guess that still looks like it's in appeals, because we did, in the break, go look it up and try to see if he had, gotten that appeal. It doesn't look like it. So let's go to Kathy in Pennsylvania. Kathy, you're on the line.
Hi, I can't believe I'm talking to you. Jason, first of all, I want to congratulate you for where you are. The first time I saw you was on Democracy Now!, and you were up against Popular Mechanics, and I said, this kid is telling the truth. I'm an old lady. So I said, this kid's telling the truth. I can tell by his body language he's telling the truth. So I looked at Loose Change, second edition. From there, I found Aaron Russo. From there, I found Alex Jones, and there you are.
Oh, excellent.
Ted, Joe, you're great. I loved you in Aaron Russo. I got to see that on the free channel that we had when I was living in Tampa, and it was just before tax time. I didn't want to pay my taxes. I'm listening. The whole thing was wonderful. You were great in it, and I started doing my own investigation on the IRS, and I came across Pete Hendrick after a year and a half. I came across Pete Hendrickson's Cracking the Code. Mm-hmm. And I got my money back from the IRS, and I want people to know that. It's not just going up against them and having to be in court. You can actually file an amended complaint, and you can cite. This guy took, I don't know how much time to actually go through all the code, which was like a billion words, and point out where all the fallacies were. And when they say employee, we're tricked into believing we're the employees, but it's really relating to federal employees and people who work for the government and other various people. It's not, income isn't everything that comes in. Income means a certain thing, and he deciphered the whole thing, and I was able to get my tax money back, including Social Security and Medicaid, not only from the federal government, but from the state. All the taxes I got back from 2004 to date.
Wow, that's excellent. Now, what do you know about cracking the code? Have you seen it? Thank you for the call, by the way, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy.